This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000houses.com podcast. I'm here with Amira Alvarez, and she's over in North Carolina. I'm over in San Antonio, Texas, and we're going to be talking about how to get out of your own way. I love this topic because I've been tripping over myself for years. I mean, literally. It's a fine art to learn how to get out of your own way and let yourself progress to the next level. First thing you got to do is you got to recognize that you're in your way. So you may be in the right spot right now. So how you doing today, Amira?
I'm doing fantastically. How are you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to roll. I have to pay homage though to my sponsor real quick, so give me a second to pay the bills. This episode is brought to you by taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a self-directed IRA or 401k or health savings account or educational account or someplace you can grow your finances without the burden of those pesky little taxes, then you are missing a huge tool that you could have in your tool belt. Please go to taxfreefuture.com. Check out the 37 little video vignettes there and see how you take little pieces of money and make it into big pieces of money in a relatively short period of time, completely tax-free or tax-deferred. Okay, so check it out, taxfreefuture.com, because you will not believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. Okay, got that out of the way. What are we going to do now, Amira?
Let's talk. Let's talk about making an income breakthrough, right?
Okay, so you had a business where you were coaching women, right? And you were making like, I don't know, 130K, whatever, plus or minus a couple.
Yeah, 138K. I had crossed that six-figure mark. I was proud of myself for having done that. You know, that was the first big, barrier to move through.
So how long did you revel at that thing? Because sometimes people get happy with something and they just stay there. How long did you stay there?
Oh, not me. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Wrong person.
I'm the opposite side of the coin there. I'm the person that needs to work on celebrating her successes and revel, like really enjoying it, because I'm ambitious. I'm driven. I want that. I'm always looking at the next level and goal. The biggest problem when I really learned this, Mitch, the hard way. I actually think it's a really good idea to have your next level goal set even before you've achieved your first level goal, because it keeps you moving forward. And you do have to revel in the pride and having accomplished it. But I've never been an athlete. And this is just a tangent story here. I've never been an athlete. And I set this goal for myself. I used a methodology for going from 138 to 700K a year. That's the big, how did you do that story? And I figured out the methodology to that. And I started using it all over in my life. But when I went to do this for my physical health, I decided I'm going to run a marathon, not being a runner. Never been an athlete. And
just kind of from zero to I'm going to run a marathon.
Yeah. And I picked a marathon that was 7 months away, which it turns out is not enough time to really actually train. Okay.
Turns out.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to do this big goal. Let's go. And I had to figure out how to do this. And it did cause me to figure out how to do this. And I finished that marathon. I walked it. I did not run the entire time, truth and transparency, but I finished a marathon, and that was pretty outstanding. But what I didn't do, I didn't use my methodology on this. At the end, I didn't pick my next level goal. So after I finished running that marathon, I stopped running after 3 weeks.
But Amira, maybe you didn't like it.
I loved it. It was so good. I was so proud of myself. I was getting in great shape. It was energizing. I just didn't have my next level goal. And the way human beings work is like we set these GPSs, these go-to points that are either conscious or unconscious. They could be subconscious and not really where you want to go. But if you set a conscious goal, like you were telling me when we were chit-chatting right before this, before we went live, that you have goals, you have metrics that you're going for in terms of how many houses you're buying and selling and what you're doing, right? And that gives you a direction point. And if you don't have that, you are directionless, you're rudderless, you don't know which way to go, so you end up going in a lot of different circles. And that was like the big thing for me when I made that huge leap in income. Was I set a big, can I swear on your podcast?
Shit, no.
Okay, I set a big ass goal for myself, okay. and and I had no idea.
You're just a rule breaker.
You gave me license there.
Yeah. So what do you mean? So income breakthrough. People people struggle with money. We seem to make it hard. Uh, and it's funny because when you start making money, you wonder like, why was this so hard?
Yeah.
It's a revelation for a lot of people. I know a lot of people out there that are listening right now. They it is hard, you know, for them. We're kind of stuck in our boxes. We're stuck in what we've been told all the time. We're stuck in what people's perception of us is. Like, that's Mitch, and Mitch does this, and Mitch does that, and Mitch will never really be that or anything else than that. And that's all bullshit.
It really is. It really is. We make it so much, making money is actually really easy. Now, I will tell you that when I was getting going, it was not easy. It was one of the hardest things in the world. I struggled quite a bit. I was banging my head against the wall, and I was doing things like trading time for dollars and all sorts of things. I didn't know how to leverage. I didn't know all the things that we need to do. But making money is fundamentally a math equation, and you have to figure out where you want to go and where you are now, and then you have to figure out how you're going to get there. And there's 3 ways to make more money. And I don't care if you're Beyonce or Richard Branson or Mitch Stephen, there are only 3 ways. You either sell more of what you're already selling. Okay, so it's quantity. You raise your prices on what you're selling, so that increases your income, or you add a new channel of revenue, of business, either adjacent to what you're already doing or something outside of it. And if you're in corporate or have a job, you can do this. You know, the new channel of income is your side hustle until it becomes your main hustle, or it's figuring out how to get yourself a raise and a bonus and become more for that position, and receive more of a salary. And there's, absolutely no limit to that except what's inside your mind of what's possible. I've helped women, within jobs 10 times their income. And that's outstanding. It makes a huge difference in your life. It creates so much opportunity and freedom and the ability to have agency for yourself.
So this makes me curious because I'm a complete outsider to what you're talking about as far as coaching it. So do you have people pit them, go out and interview at other jobs and pit themselves against pit opportunity against, if I don't get a raise, I'm moving? Or is that one of the strategies, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's absolutely a strategy. I don't usually talk about it in sort of like pitting and competition, but the idea of the first thing that you need to do is claim what you really want. I was talking about the GPS. Like, you have to know what you want, and vague desires, vague goals will give you vague results. So you have to get clear about what you want. And fundamentally, if we're talking just income and revenue and money, straight up money, like, tell me what you want to be making. Okay. And do you believe that you're worth that? And that's where we have to start. And then once I know what that is, and then we know where you're starting right now, we do the inner work and the tactical outer work to figure out how you close that gap. Okay. And if you're telling me you're making 60K and you want to be making 100K, and you really think like your skill set, you own it, then we're going to, in the act of claiming that and saying, I'm going to do this, and then we'll put a time period on it. Okay. So that gives you some urgency, because otherwise people will put it off for years. Okay. I'm going to do that in the next month. I'm going to do that in the next year, whatever it is. Then the ways and the means for how to do that start dropping in. Sometimes someone would go, actually, I want to work with Mitch. I want to buy a bunch of houses. This is the way I want to go. Right. And sometimes people are going to say, you know what? I want to move up in this organization because I love this company, but I also want this thing on the side that's going to really light me up. So there's not one size fits all of how to do this, but yeah, it's absolutely a big possibility to get a new job. That's a great way to quantum leap your income. It's one of the fastest ways.
Yeah, go market yourself. Find out who wants to pay more.
Yeah.
Not that you're necessarily out for the highest bidder, because there's other things to consider, travel time and quality and reputation of that company and all that other stuff, I'm sure. But yeah, you got to start somewhere. Sometimes you have to bluff a little too, right?
Yeah. So I think this is important. So there's two philosophies on it. There's the act as if philosophy, and there's the fake it till you make it philosophy. Fundamentally, on some level, they mean the same thing. Acting as if is like, I'm going to act as if I'm already good enough to do this next level job, okay, or close this deal. And there's real truth in doing this, because before you have done something, you don't have the actual experience to point to and say, I've actually done this. You have to take a leap of faith, trust yourself, have confidence and self-esteem in order to do it. And you have to act as if you already have done it and you already can do it. Okay. That's different than faking it. Faking it is saying, that's not me. I have to be someone else. Okay.
I've done it before. Is like, I don't know if I can do it, and no one's really going to pay me to do it because I don't have any track record of doing it. So here, let me make a run at you for free. This is what I want to do. I'm not charging anything. They'll go prove to myself and go prove to the other person I can do it without having egg on my face or it's
yeah, absolutely.
It seems fair to me, right? Like, if I'm not sure I can do it and it's important, then I'll just go try it let me try to do it for you for free. If I mess up, it didn't cost you anything. You can go hire someone else.
Yep. That's a great way forward. I think it's hard for people. I know women have this, there've been a lot of studies on this, that women have more of, like, they'll read a job description and they'll say, I can do 7 out of 3 of those things that they want in this job. I won't apply for it because I'm not yet there. And a man will look at those 10 things in the job description and say, well, I can do 3. I'm going to apply. Okay. And
every time I post a job opening, they can't do any of it and they apply. I don't know have you done that before?
Right. And so there's this imposter syndrome and where you hold yourself back. And I really encourage people to step forward and own what you can and can't do, but put it forward to people. Like, I'm great at this, and this is how I would go about learning this skill set, and how I would knock it out of the park. And this is like, you have to let people know how you're going to give them more life, how you're going to give them a lot more than what they already have in anything. I don't care if we're talking sales. I don't care if we're talking houses. I don't care if we're talking jobs. Everyone in life wants more life. Like, this is what human beings want. We want to grow and expand, have more, be more, do more, like, love more, whatever it is. We want more. And we have a problem that's stopping us from expanding. And when you're in business or when you're working for someone else, your job is to solve their problem. And if you can solve their problem, they will be able to have more life, and they will pay you for solving that problem. So if you are looking to expand within the corporate world or your job, how can you help the company or the new company have more, create more? How can you solve problems? That's what you're going to get paid more for. Okay. And you're doing that in the housing world. You're solving people's problems and you're getting paid well to do that.
Imagine you have to track that too. So you can actually say, look, I made this difference. I made this difference. I made this difference. Don't you think I deserve a little bit bigger piece of the pie?
Yeah, metrics are so
Yeah,
important,
you got to
right?
add up the numbers. You got to know what you're doing for these people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I call it making love to the numbers. Like make love to the numbers. Don't be afraid of the numbers. Track your numbers, right? So many people want to go ostrich, like put their head in the sand. Like I don't want to look at the numbers, but like what were your goals this year for your company? What did you do? How did you do that? What was the time period? And you'd be surprised how much you get done, and then you might have an overinflated sense of self and be surprised about how little you got done, but you have to look at those numbers with that with a very neutral um, perspective, without guilt or shame, without emotionalizing it, without telling yourself stories about whether that's like really great or really bad. The numbers are just the numbers. Okay. And how are you going to improve them?
Yeah. As coaches, uh, well, I had a coach one time. I was thinking about hiring a coach. It was $40,000, and I thought, damn, that's a lot of money. He says, compared to what? And I said, well, I don't know, compared to what I have, I guess. But he says, well, why don't you compare it to what you could make, and then it won't look so big. Let me show you how this is going to work. And he showed me where, if you do 1, 2, 3, uh, you end up making $400,000 that you're not making right now because you don't know what you don't know, and I know what you don't know, and I know where this is headed. And even if you fall drastically short of that, $40,000 doesn't look that big anymore because it doesn't. It's inconsequential. It doesn't matter, So, uh, where do we get bamboozled in our brain about the value of education?
Oh, that's a really good one. So that's a great question, Mitch. So there's a couple things to talk about here. We think of education as school, public school. Maybe you went to private school, but generally speaking, like
No wonder we
it,
don't want to pay $40,000.
right. And and the thing is that school, which I'm a big proponent of, like I was the smarty pants in school. I was also the rebel child, but like I believe in education. It taught me lots of great things, including how to think about certain aspects of life. But fundamentally, it teaches you how to study for a test. Okay. It teaches you how to, here's the quiz, here's the exam. Can you get your stuff together to perform on these tests and exams? It doesn't teach you how to think in a bigger level, and it doesn't teach you how to make money. Okay. It teaches you how to perform for someone else. And performing for someone else is what you need to do within a job. Okay. You have a boss and you need to perform for someone else, which means that they're setting the metrics, they're setting the goals, they're saying they're giving you that accountability, and you are trained to be habituated to doing things for other people. When you set off on your own, or you're trying to run, like do the housing flipping that you teach, buying and selling, you have to be self-motivated, and you can't rely on someone else to simply tell you what to do and when to do it and hold you accountable. Okay, that's a fear driven style of motivation. It's like, if you don't get this done by then, you're going to lose your job, right? That's the underlying fear. And then we lose money, and then we don't know how to make money on our own, and we're scared. But instead, you have to learn, and this is what coaches do, not all coaches, but what I do and master level coaches do. They teach you how to show up for yourself, so that whatever goal you have, whether it's houses or starting your own business in a different way, whatever goal or running that marathon, right? You know how to execute on it. You know how to show up for yourself, and you're not just working for the test, okay? Showing up for other people. But it requires that you want what you want. Like you really claim your big desire and say, I want that. Because otherwise you're going to be stuck in an old pattern of belief that says this working for the test type of education that should be free is how I'm going to get ahead. When in fact, there are lots of people who have great educations who are making good, solid middle class incomes. Nothing to knock there, but they don't have financial freedom. Okay. They haven't really set themselves free. And they need to realize that they have to invest in their training, in their lives to learn a different way of thinking in order to show up differently. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not making $1 million a year, then you need to hang around a guy that does and figure out how he's thinking, or a person, a woman in this case, to say, how are, what are the differences in the way that we think? Because there's a huge difference the way that they think. You know, you won't see multimillionaires for the most part, unless it's somehow cathartic for them. You won't see them mowing their lawn.
Right.
You won't see them taking out the trash. You won't see them doing a lot of things. You know, even unbelievable amount of things they won't do because it's a different priority. Um, my wife.
Their time is valuable,
And
right?
my wife once asked me if I could stop by and get the cleaners. I said, I'm worth about $800 an hour. Can we get someone else to do that? And it didn't work out very good, Amira. It didn't work out good at all.
Yeah. That's too bad.
But she got,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't mow the lawn.
that's excellent. I mean, I'm constantly, whether it's in my business or my personal life, firing myself up. Like, I'm like, that's no longer my job. Like, I need to do something. This is my genius work. This is what I've been put on this earth for. This is where I make my money. I can hire that out. And you have to start thinking that way. And I will tell you, Mitch, when I first started, that was the hardest thing in the world. It was so hard for me to hire my first assistant, right? Like, what is she going to think about me making more money? And like, what is like, can I delegate? And do I have to apologize for asking her to do something? Like now I think about that. And I think that like, I can't believe I thought that way, but that was absolutely real. I felt guilty about hiring someone, even though that person wanted a job. That person was so
They wanted to do
grateful. Yeah. But I felt guilty because, and this is the rub, my self-image wasn't the self-image of a millionaire. Okay. My self-image wasn't the image of someone who even made 200K. My self-image was the self-image of someone who had to struggle to make ends meet. Okay. And so I kept finding myself in a thought pattern that kept me recreating that self-image. And I had to do some deep work. I worked with mentors to really change how I thought about myself, because you will never change what you are able to achieve until you change how you see yourself. And that's going to raise the value that you place on yourself, and that's going to cause you to take different actions.
Yeah, yeah, very good. And hiring a personal assistant is a really monumental step for most people. I remember when I first got my first personal assistant. It scared me at first just because there was an overhead, but it didn't take me long to figure out that this person was taking so much off my plate that I was able to make way more than she was costing me. And it's like, it was ridiculous that I waited so long to do it. I almost shamed myself into like, wow, that wasn't cool. You could have been doing this 3 years ago. So those adjustments go faster if you hire or make up your mind to get through them. And you can watch. There's a lot of free stuff. We can watch a lot of stuff, but sometimes the personal attention, right? The personal attention. I'm going to guess, just because judging your personality, you get very involved in people's lives. Like you take it serious. You're listening to them. You're, sizing them up, figuring out where some of the weak spots are, what they're strong at, and help people get through it. Just describe a conversation with someone who's fearful of the next step. I mean, how do you talk to them?
Yeah. Fundamentally, I'm looking for the blind spot in their thinking. So a blind spot is by definition something that you are blind to. You can't see it. You're in the weeds, right? You're in the forest for the trees. You cannot see this yourself. And I can see, okay, well, this tactical thing that we're talking about you doing is not that complicated. And even the person might say, you know, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. I can't seem to execute on it. Sometimes they don't know what to do. That's also an issue. But I will then start inquiring as to why that would be. And my first question is like, what do you really want? I need to hear an emotional resonance in terms of what they really want, because so often someone will tell me that they're not doing something because actually the thing that they need to be, that they're telling me they're not doing and not motivated on, isn't the thing that's going to get them what they want. It's going to get them what's reasonable. It's going to get them what their uncle told them that they should be doing, what their wife or partner told them that they should be doing. It's a practical, reasonable thing, but it's not what they truly want to be doing in their lives. And we're conditioned to make compromises instead of owning our real desires. And it could just be a financial desire, like an income desire. You can have an impact desire. You can have a passion, purpose desire. There are all sorts of kinds of desires, like zero judgment on whether it's just like, you know what, here's my financial goal. I want to get there. I don't care how. Like, well, within reason.
They all
how.
morph. I mean, they morph. Once you get to one, you go to another one. For me, it was like first money. Money. But then you figure out, like, I got enough money. There's nothing else I can do, so I need a higher reason now. If I'm going to keep doing this, there's got to be a higher reason, because I don't need any more money, really. I mean, I'd like to have more, of course, but I don't need it.
But right, everything's taken care of.
Yeah, correct. It's not going to change. If I make an extra $1 million tomorrow, it's not going to change where I live. It's not going to change what I drive, and it's not going to change who I hang out with.
Correct. Exactly. But when I was making that big leap, 138 to 700K, my goal was 1 million. I ended up getting there, not that year, but I ended up surpassing it. But it was absolutely like, my goal was, I want to make $1 million this year. Like, it was very financial. I didn't want to be a horrible person. I didn't want to lose my sense of ethics or integrity, but I didn't have a spiritual purpose that I was following. Now, having gone through that, now I know what my purpose is. Now it's very clear. But so
what is that purpose?
Well, it's helping people get out of their own way in this process. Like, it was so, and let me elaborate on that, because when I got out of my own way and actually started to do the things that were so scary to me because they went against what was in my subconscious sense of self and identity and image and my belief structures that weren't logical, but were there, like, I can't say no to someone, would be a very simplistic version of that, right? And then you're constantly doing things for other people instead of growing your business. But once I started moving forward like this, I was on a journey and I had to keep growing. And when I grew and became the person who could have the $1 million business, like, I had to grow to become the person who had the $1 million business. And I had to learn certain things so that I could do that. And in that process, I found my freedom. I found my personal freedom, my emotional freedom, my mental freedom, so that I'm no longer driven by fear or feeling trapped or feeling like the world is happening to me or circumstances are happening to me. Big deal right now with COVID, right? A lot of people feeling like stuff is happening to them. Like, I know how, there's a methodology to this, and I know exactly how and what to do to show up powerfully in this world and to create what I want. I'm no longer mentally and emotionally trapped, but I had to go through the process. And that process started by taking the actions that were required to grow the business. That was the container in which I learned all those lessons.
Okay, so I got 2 or 3 questions kind of in a row. Like, I don't have to think about them a whole lot, but just like right off the top of your head, who fails with you? Who shows up for you and it doesn't work? Who is that person?
That's a really good question. It depends what level they're coming in at. So if they're coming in, so people who don't take action, okay? And there are some people who are the people who win with me are the people who are action takers, but they aren't putting their effort in the right direction, okay, on the right things, because they have this blind spot that's keeping them from showing up. And the people who fail are the ones who are only about tactics and are not willing to look at their inner game, like the level of truth and honesty that they have to get about like what beliefs they're holding about the way the world works and life works and they work and other people. And they're so committed to doing things their way that they won't change. They don't have a willingness to change. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. Same exact people. They're something way deep down inside that they feel guilty to make money, or they feel, you know what I mean? It's somewhere something happened.
Yeah.
You answered the second one. Who succeeds with you?
Yeah. Yeah. The people who are willing to go deep and to look at their psychology and the subconscious programming that's keeping them stuck playing at the same level, looking at their lives and being like, you know what, if this keeps going for another year or 2 or 5 or 10 years, I'm going to die with regrets. You know, like this is not okay. They have to be willing to change and be willing to do the deep personal work.
It's scary. Yeah. It's scary, right?
It is scary.
People have to kind of come with hat in hand and be vulnerable and be able to look at themselves realistically or honestly and say, yeah, maybe I do have that problem, you know, and then to go to work on it. You know what I mean? It's not fun. Sometimes I'm fixing to go do some things. And I told at this mastermind, they sent me this bio and I read it and then I watched this little video clip of it and I said, this scares the hell out of me. I mean, this really scares the hell out of me.
You got to do it quick.
Which means I got to go there because
Absolutely.
I learned a long time. You got to go right to your fear. I did this piece on fear one time. If you'll just get nose to nose with the dragons that scare you, they shrink in size almost immediately,
instantaneously.
And over time, you think like, why in the world was I ever scared of that?
Correct. Yeah, I call it moving towards the resistance, and like it's so scary, all the thinking up until the time you take the action. But once you take the action, like it's done. You did it. And you look back and you're like, that wasn't as bad as I thought. What didn't go?
I find
didn't
fear
suck. You know,
I find fear is conquered by action. Like get so busy attacking it that you don't have time to be afraid of it.
Correct.
I'm busy attacking it. I'm planning the next move and the next move and the next move. I'm so busy attacking my fears that I don't have time to be afraid. Really.
Yeah. Action is a bomb. Yeah.
And then so give us a success story or two. Like what stands out? Some of the people that have showed up to say, I want to meet this unstoppable woman and I want to become one of them. Huh?
Thank you. So I think that I'd like to give a variety of success stories. So like I've had clients that go from making 188 to 1.2 million in a year. And that's an enormous success story. Huge. And you know, she did it fundamentally by claiming her desires. Again, that same point. And I helped her move through the blocks that were keeping her from doing what she really wanted to do. And then everything started to happen. That were there tactical things that had to go along with that? Absolutely, 100%. So that's a high level success story, right? Like she was already making significant money.
So specifically, what had to change? What was the difference? Can you go into a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So fundamentally she was trapped. Here's the inner game piece. She was trapped by living where she was living in northern Wisconsin and feeling like she wanted to live in Florida. She wanted to snowbird, excuse me. And, but she was trapped by like, what do I do with the kids? What would my parents think? Everyone's going to think I'm, all that and more. They're going to judge me. It was complete fear. And I had her book. The first step that I had her take was today, getting off this call right now. I don't want you to do anything between now and then. You're booking a condo or a house for a month and we picked a date and you're just doing it. And then you're going to figure out how to handle this kid's school and how to handle your parents and everything next. And she did that. She didn't die. Your subconscious thinks you're going to die if you do this. She didn't die. She had a damn good time. and her business, and she felt good about herself. I know it seems tangential, but she felt good about herself, and then she was doing more in her business and taking the action instead of feeling small and like she couldn't be out there doing her thing. Okay, she had conquered a little bit of that I have to live for other people mentality. Okay, now let me give you another example. I want to give you three examples. Then another example is a client who had a landscaping business, and she's making she's her average contract is around $34,000. Now her average contract is around $1 million. Okay, and that shifted in not overnight, but in a matter of 3 years. We fundamentally, back to the idea of hiring people and everything, we had to work on a concept of not being responsible for other people, because she had team members who were manipulative, emotionally manipulative, toxic, that she loved, but were holding her back and keeping her trapped. And she had a hard time seeing that. Once she saw that, was able to let them go, she was then able to scale her business step by step to the point now where she's buying other businesses. Okay. And she's got this great team that she loves with highly responsible people that have the same like positive attitude, work hard, be good people attitude, and aren't sucking her down. Okay. Then there are people who are like, I'm just starting my business, and like I've saved 10 grand to move from my job to start my business. What do I do? Okay. And we get them off the ground. Okay. We get them making incremental sales so that they can start making money. And because so often I see people leave a job and save a bunch of money and be in complete paralysis because they don't know how to step forward in self-actualization around their business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The real business, I mean, business becomes fun when it just becomes monopoly money. It's not, you know, so I teach a thing called the moat theory, where you get enough coming in to just pay for your overhead, right? Not your dreams or anything, just your overhead. And you put them, like you got a moat and you put a castle in the middle, and you got your horses and your chickens and your garden and the whole thing. And then you got enough coming in over the moat to pay for it all. And then anything you make over that's just R&D money, man. You can go out there, and if you make 10,000 extra and you go out there and you want to try something, it fails, you just come back because you haven't collapsed. You still
correct.
go inside here, pull up the drawbridge, and you're still good inside this moat. And so, because you got to start looking at money like not life and death.
Correct.
It can't be like, because if you go out and you gamble everything and you don't do well, then you lose your wife, and you lose your house, or it can get really stressful to start off from damn near homeless. You know what I mean? That's a tough gig, a really tough gig. So just say, I wrote a book called Failing Forward to Financial Freedom, which I didn't know what I was really doing at the time, but I was trying to set myself up so they could fail without going under, because I knew that we'd have to fail to get where we were going. I just didn't want to go under, like to drown under.
Right,
so,
right.
How often in your encounters with people is there this need to separate or move away from other people?
It's big. I don't know what you found, Mitch, but it's big. So here's the hard truth that people fear and people don't want to hear. In order for you to do more in your life, you have to grow. Growth is change. When you grow and change, the people around you are forced to change by default because you've changed. And they have not consciously chosen that. And they have two choices. They can either grow with you or be pissed off about you growing and cause many sorts of havoc and sabotage and conflict and frustration. Now, that's one of people's biggest fears. If I grow, I'm going to lose everyone around me.
I can testify to this. I can testify because I quit drinking and smoking after 40 years on August the 1st, 2019. And my biggest fear was they're not going to invite me to the party, and people are going to leave me, and they're not going to want to be around me. And it's the stupidest fear in the world, because I'm killing myself with these two vices for decades. And it's amazing how strong that fear is. I'm saying firsthand, it was very strong fear. How are people? And then the other thing is I don't know who I am without that. I don't even know
Right.
who I am.
Yeah.
And that's scary too, because I know who I am in here. I know exactly who I am. I'm the life of the party, and I'm the guy that does, I'm this guy.
Right.
Well, when you get out of there, you don't know who you are. Turns out, the ones that don't invite me to the party anymore, I don't even care.
Right.
And the ones that really cared about me, they invite me to the party anyways. Luckily for me, like I'm not triggered by being around it. I'll be the bartender. I'll serve the thing. I don't care. So you can smoke your cigarettes. I don't care. I just don't want to do it anymore. Apparently, I've had enough, and I don't
That's
want it
great.
anymore.
Congratulations.
And by the way, lost 200 and I'm sorry, I went from 217 to 170, so I lost about 55 pounds
Woohoo.
in the last year. So change is hard. But man, the rewards of change, major change, may I testify, and it's irrelevant. I'm talking about a health change, but any change. There have been more benefits than I ever imagined. I had this idea of why I wanted to stop, a few things, but the benefits that I got out of that change are changing my entire life. They're changing everything, everything. There were benefits inside of benefits that I did not calculate. It's funny how the tiniest change can take your life in a completely different direction. Just that one turn. If you missed that one appointment one day, and instead of doing X, you did Y, you could end up in a whole different place in your life.
So
maybe
true.
a whole different country, maybe a whole different planet. So change is really fun. And one thing cool about change is you can probably always go back. Like 90% of the time, if you don't like it, you can go back.
Yeah,
So why
people
is
are
it so hard
afraid of that opportunity missed. I'm going to make that wrong decision. And yet you have to, like your book, Fail Forward, right? You have to take the risk. You have to choose A or B, and with the best information that you have, and take the risk. It might not work out exactly perfectly. It might, but it might not. And then you course correct and you take the next step. You have to keep going forward, which I think is what you were implying in the title of your book, Fail Forward. So
Have you ever gotten to a place where you say, I don't know what to do next, but this isn't working, so I'm just going to do the next thing that comes up, even if it's way out of character? I say, I just got to change. I got to scrabble the board. You know what I mean? I have to change the pieces. Move. I don't want to. I don't like how it is.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
I have quite significantly.
You want to tell us about it?
Really? We're going to go there? Okay, we can. So, I had a really great marriage, not a bad marriage, a really great marriage, but it wasn't great in some key factors. And I was like, do I work to make this work, or do I really change things up? And that's a tough conversation to have with your spouse and partner. And we ended up having a really conscious conversation. I know that sounds like, you're putting like frosting on it, but
this is very interesting though, because you can hardly separate life. I mean, this personal parts of life from the business parts of life. They're going to get it. You can't. I tell people that all the time. They say, well, can I talk to you about this? I said, we talk about anything you want to talk about, because there's no separating your life or even your personal life from what's going on in this business. They're going to collide. They almost collide every day.
Absolutely. We put some coaching calls on our podcast. With permission from these particular clients, they've allowed us to do a series called Coaching Uncut, where people can listen in to the kinds of, topics that are coming up. There's and you can see this intersection between personal life and professional life. And I think before you enter into the coaching world, you think that coaching is all going to be about business, or that business and personal life are separate, and they're not. Okay. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if you're stuck over here, you're going to be stuck over here. You might not be seeing the connections, but I see the connections, and you, Mitch, see the connections. And we have to we have to solve for those problems. So for me, it was, I was at a juncture where like, am I going to grow with this person? That had been my dream, my whole marriage, right? Or is the growth here actually not happening? And we've given it enough of an effort. And we had a really conscious conversation where I wasn't showing up in the marriage the way he needed me to show up, right? And I'll be totally transparent. I'm probably oversharing, but like we didn't have a great sex life, you
Okay.
know?
I kind of I thought maybe that, but that's what's great about this conversation, and I want to thank you for being transparent like that, because that's the kind of talk that we need to hear.
Yeah.
We need to get with the real stuff, and when you're really with a one-on-one coach, real good coaches open up about their personal life and what they've been through too, so they can relate to you, and it gets to be a professional but intimate relationship between two people, and that's
Yeah.
important. If it's important to you and it's not happening, no matter what it is, then you can't expect to go on and be happy,
Yeah.
and so you have to do something.
Yeah.
Um,
And in this case, like he wasn't happy around it. And, we'd been working on that for a while, and I thought it was me. Right. And I think there are a lot of women. I hope the women that are listening to podcasts, listen up here. Like you think it's you that's like somehow dysfunctional around this. Well, I'll tell you, I got divorced, still great guy, right? Dating someone else, having the best sex of my life, right? It's like you have to. So this came up because you said, has there been a time where you just had to change things up? And like this isn't working. I've been trying this for a while. I've been trying to solve this problem. Like I had put good effort into this, but I haven't solved that problem. I think I just need to change this up. And I know that's going to trigger some people, like you're being too flip about your
no,
marriage and
no, no,
divorce and all of
no.
that. But like,
I don't think so. But if
yeah,
they do, then this wasn't for them. And
yeah, there
maybe
you go.
next podcast will do better for you. But
Yeah.
there's all kinds of people that listen to this podcast, or any podcast for that matter. And sometimes we hit on topics for a certain amount of people that's what they need and that's what they
Yeah.
have to hear. I see it all the time. The people like that one podcast you were talking right to me. I didn't know who they were, but I'm glad that we were there. Um, on a scale from 1 to 10, how scary was that?
I'm really good at making decisions. So
So once you made the decision, it was
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, Here's the thing. The honest truth, Mitch, is it wasn't scary to make that decision. I know that sounds odd, but it wasn't scary to make that decision. I think, and you know, I moved very quickly on it. It was amicable. It was really good. I think there was shifts that happened a year or two later that were when it sort of dropped in, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Look at that. I hadn't thought about that. Where like, oh, you're really on your own now. Look at that, right? And that became a little scarier for me. But I don't tend to be a worrier. Like I don't tend to overthink the future.
You say
So
what I say. You've already said it. They can't eat you. You're not gonna die.
yeah,
What's the worst can happen to me? Like really.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I want everyone to go to 1000houses.com/Amir, AMIR, Amira, AMIRA. I got that right. And there's some a lot of resources over there to help people start their business growth right now, right? So I want you to go over there. Also, there'll be all the information that leads you to Amira, and you can get with her. And if it sounds interesting, I don't know, do you do a free consult, or you just, when people are interested, do they go to a website, or what do they do to learn more, or to find out if they're a good fit for you?
Absolutely. So what we gave to you, Mitch, was our free resource page where we have a ton of free resources. They can download things, interact with us. We have a podcast where you can listen to our teaching and training on how to really get your mindset right, and so that you can take the tactical actions to scale either your business or your career. And So I recommend that people start in those two places. And then on both of those pages, there's a consult button. You have a conversation with me or someone on my team, and we'll lead you to the right place. Sometimes the right place is coming to like our virtual event that's coming up, our summit. We have something called the Unstoppable Woman Summit. It's a 3-day training, hugely impactful. Sometimes we'll lead you to business boot camp or private coaching. There's all sorts of places where you can get resources, join our mastermind, things like that. So we want to make sure that what we're giving an individual is actually what they need right now in their life and business, and is exactly spot on. But I encourage people just to start with the free stuff and see if it's a good fit, if they like what they're hearing, and then book a consult.
Well, I like what you said. There's no one size fits all, and I think that's really important because everybody's different. Every situation's different. People are good and bad at things. People are ready to conquer certain things and not ready to not don't think they're ready to conquer other things. So I like that you're taking an individual approach to everybody because I really think that's the only way any coaching works. Any
Yeah,
coaching.
absolutely.
There's 44 players on a football team. I mean, every one of those guys, you probably got to talk to a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? The coach he knows that guy. He knows that kid. He knows what motivates him. So
Yeah,
all right, man. I'd love to have you back sometime, and
great.
I would like you've got some people out there that are struggling in this department and need to make more money. What's maybe a final parting words to them?
Believe you can. Okay. I think faith and trust in yourself is a big part of this. Own your desire, choose your goal, believe that you can, start taking action immediately. Don't worry about it being the perfect right action. Just start getting into momentum and experiencing the results, and iterate on that. Keep going. Don't stop. Okay?
Man, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right, this is Mitch Stephen with 1000houses.com podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Amira Alvarez and the Unstoppable Woman. Check it out. If you're a woman out there and need a coach or just need to make some changes and you want someone in your corner, check it out. 1000houses.com/Amira, Amira. And thank you so much for being a guest. You've been wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Mitch. Would love to come on again.